charades, pop skill, water hyacinth, named by a poet, imitation of life. Like a koi in a frozen pond, like a goldfish in a bowl. I don't want to hear you cry. That sugar cane, that tasted good, that cinnamon, that's Hollywood. Come on, come on, no one can see you try. You want the greatest thing since bread came sliced. You've got it all, you've got it sized. Like a Friday fashion show teenager, freezing in the corner, trying to look like you don't try. That sugar cane, that tasted good, that cinnamon, that's Hollywood. Come on, come on, no one can see you try. No one can see you cry. That sugar cane, that tasted good, that's freezing rain, that's what you could. Come on, come on, no one can see you cry. This sugar cane, this lemonade, this hurricane, I'm not afraid. Come on, come on, no one can see you cry. This lightning storm, this tidal wave, this avalanche, I'm not afraid. Come on, come on, no one can see you cry. That sugar cane, that tasted good, that's who you are, that's what you could. Come on, come on, no one can see you cry. That tasted good, that's who you are, that's what you could. Come on, no one can see you cry. It's a mystery to me. We have agreed with which we have agreed. You think you have one more than me. Till you You have it all, you won't be free. Society, you're a crazy breed. Hope you're not lonely without me. Society, you want more than you have, you think you need. Thinking then you want, your thoughts begin to bleed. I think I need to find a bigger place. 'Cause when you have more than you think, you need more space. Society, you're a crazy breed. I hope you're not lonely without me. Society, crazy indeed. Hope you're not lonely without me. Those thinking more of sex is more. But if less is more, how you keeping score? Means for every point you make, your level drops. Kinda like you're starting from the top. You can't do that. Society, you're a crazy breed. I hope you're not lonely without me. Society, crazy indeed. I hope you're not lonely without me. Hope you see on me. Hope you're not angry if I disagree. Society, crazy indeed. Hope you're not lonely. Society knows perfectly well how to kill a man and has methods more subtle than death. Andre Gide. I really want to do this one. Because, oh my gosh, I do, okay? I'm inspired to and spirited. I'm conspiring and inspiring and respiring and expiring and inspiring and on-spiring. Ah, spire, spur, spare, spore, spirit, ritual, spiral. Some boys hate themselves, spend their lives resenting their fathers. Some girls hate their bodies, stand in the mirror and wait for the feedback, saying, "God, oh, come on." Say, why? It's on and on, I don't know what I want. On and on, I don't know if I want it. See if we can start over. I'm not connected, really? Thanks for knocking me off the internet. The song's called Creature Comfort by Arcade Fire. Listen to these lyrics. Some boys hate themselves, spend their lives resenting their fathers. Some girls hate their bodies, stand in the mirror and wait for the feedback, saying, God, make me famous. If you can't, just make it painless. Just make it painless. Assisted suicide, she dreams about dying all the time. She told me 'cause she came so close, filled up the bathtub and put on the first record, saying, God, make me famous. If you can't, just make it painless. Just make it painless. I want to do that last line again. I messed that up. I'm going to do the assisted suicide again. Okay, ready? Assisted suicide, she dreams about dying all the time. She told me she came so close, filled up the bathtub and put on our first record, saying, God, make me famous. If you can't, just make it painless. Just make it painless. It goes on and on, I don't know what I want. On and on, I don't know if I want it. On and on, I don't know what I want. On and on, I don't know if I want it. On and on, I don't know what I want. On and on, I don't know if I want it. On and on, I don't know what I want. On and on, I don't know if I want it. Some girls hate themselves, hide under the covers with sleeping pills, and some girls cut themselves, stand in the mirror and wait for the feedback. Some boys get too much love, too much touch. Some boys starve themselves, stand in the mirror and wait for the feedback. Creature comfort, make it painless. Bury me painless, or penniless and nameless. Born in a diamond mine, it's around you all the time, but you can't see it. Born in a diamond mine, it's all around you, but you can't touch it. Saying, God, make me famous. If you can't, just make it painless. Just make it painless. It's not painless. She was a friend of mine. It's not painless, a friend of mine, and we're not nameless, no. We're not nameless, no. Goes on and on, I don't know what I want. On and on, I don't know if I want it. On and on, I don't know what I want. On and on, I don't know if I want it. On and on, I don't know what I want. On and on, I don't know if I want it. On and on, I don't know what I want. On and on. Well, if you're not sure, better safe than sorry. Ooh, creature comfort, make it painless. Creature comfort, make it painless. Creature comfort, make it painless. Creature comfort, get painless. Creature comfort, make it painless. Ooh. We're the bones under your feet, the white lie of American prosperity. We want to dance, but we can't feel the beat. I'm a lie, don't doubt my sincerity. Just make it painless.
It's tough to quit smoking cold turkey, so Chantix can help you quit slow turkey. Along with support, Chantix is proven to help you quit.
Depeche Mode. Enjoy the silence. Words like violence break the silence, come crashing into my little world, painful to me, pierce right through me. Can't you understand? Oh, my little girl, all I ever wanted, all I ever needed is here in my arms. Words are very unnecessary, they can only do harm. Vows are spoken to be broken. Feelings are intense, words are trivial. Pleasures remain, so does their pain. Words are meaningless and forgettable. All I ever wanted, all I ever needed is here in my arms. Words are very unnecessary, they can only do harm. All I ever wanted, all I ever needed is here in my arms. Words are very unnecessary, they can only do harm. All I ever wanted, all I ever needed is here in my arms. Words are very unnecessary, they can only do harm.
tell people they'll only pay for what they need with Liberty Mutual. Fine, I'll drive.
New Triscuit wheatberry clusters.
Oh my goodness, wheatberry clusters!
Try them now.
No. No. Please allow me to introduce myself. I'm a man of wealth and taste. I've been around for a long, long year, stole many a man's soul and faith. And I was around when Jesus Christ had his moment of doubt and pain. Made damn sure that Pilate washed his hands and sealed his fate. Pleased to meet you. Hope you guessed my name. But what's puzzling you is the nature of my game. I stuck around St. Petersburg when I saw it was a time for change. Killed the Tsar and his ministers. Anastasia screamed in vain. I rode a tank, held a general's rank when the blitzkrieg raged and the bodies stank. Pleased to meet you. Hope you guess my name. Oh yeah! And what's puzzling you is the nature of my game. Oh yeah! I watched with glee while your kings and queens fought for 10 decades for the gods they made. I shouted out who killed the Kennedys when after all it was you and me. Let me please introduce myself. I'm a man of wealth and taste. And I laid traps for troubadours who get killed before they reached Bombay. Pleased to meet you. I hope you guessed my name. Oh yeah. But what's puzzling you is the nature of my game. Oh yeah. Batteries not included. Price and participation by grade limit. The offers only as I can see the Celsius. Like out of the Cathartic the Malcolm. I just want to the basics the revelations. Pleased to meet you. Hope you guess my name. Oh yeah. But what's confusing you is the nature of my game. Oh yeah. Just as every cop is a criminal, and all the sinners saints. As heads as tails, just call me Lucifer, 'cause I'm in need of some restraint. So if you meet me, have some courtesy, have some sympathy, and some taste. Use all your well-learned politesy, or I'll lay your soul to waste. Yeah. I'm pleased to meet you. Hope you guess my name. Yeah. Because what's puzzling you? Well, that's the nature of my game. Get it? Woo-hoo! Get down. Woo-hoo. Oh yeah, get on down. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Woo-hoo! Tell me, baby, what's my name? Tell me, honey, can you guess my name? Tell me, baby, what's my name? I tell you one time, you're to blame. Oh, hoo, oh, hoo, all right. Oh, hoo, all right. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, price of participation may vary. Limited time offer. Your least restricted to batters not included. Limited time only. Time is death. You're gonna die. You're gonna live. What's gonna happen? You're not. What's my name? Ooh, it's Lucy. Ooh, Lucy in the sky with diamonds. Ooh, it's Lucifer. Ooh, he's a party. Ooh, he's the light of the world. Ooh, he's the one who died on the cross, and he's the one who put the man on the cross. He's Pilate too, cause he's God, and God's all in, and God's nothing. God ain't everything and nothing. God's nothing and everything. And what am I saying? Nothing. Cause words can only do harm. PDF, The Undiscovered Self. We need to go back to that. Now to chapter 5. Carl Jung. Yes. Because we didn't read chapter 5. And I've been reading a whole lot of Ramtha. And I want to balance it out. So let's read the Anthony Stevens quote again here at the beginning of The Undiscovered Self by Jung, published in 1958. The plight of our civilization, accurately diagnosed by Jung in Modern Man in Search of a Soul, is here presented as a specifically individual struggle. I need to roll the window down a little bit first, or all the way. The plight of our civilization, accurately diagnosed by Jung in Modern Man in Search of a Soul, is here presented as a specifically individual struggle for moral and spiritual integrity against the mass psychology generated by political fanaticism, scientific materialism, and technological triumphalism on a global scale. Ultimately, this is a religious as much as a psychological problem, which is not solved by passive adoption of some established creed, but by opening oneself up to the religious instinctive attitude and inner symbolic vitality possessed by each and every one of us, by virtue of our humanity. One of Jung's most profound yet accessible texts. The sky all around me right now is freakish, geoengineered whiteness. Let's see the actual published date here. First published 1957 by Rockshire Zurich. We have to go all the way to chapter 5 here, so bear with me for a second here, please. Pretty please just wait 1 second. Okay, I'll be right there. I swear. Did I stutter? Now I'm Ross Perot. Remember Ross Perot? See, everyone thinks politics has just suddenly gotten crazy, but they don't remember 1992, Ross Perot. Okay? Politics did not just suddenly get crazy. We had Ross Perot, and we had Admiral Stockdale up there saying, "Who am I? Why am I here?" Now, do you remember that? Ross Perot. And who else? Bill Clinton. Ross Perot rose, he ran against Bill Clinton and George Bush not gonna do it. No new taxes. Willie Horton. Skull and Bones. John Kerry. W. War. Death. Poverty. Richness. How would there be any rich if there weren't the poor? Now it's a little too chilly. This chapter 5 now, am I there? Takes forever, I'm sorry. Yes, I think I'm there. Okay, here we go. 5, the philosophical and psychological approach to life. The Undiscovered Self, PDF, Carl Jung. Which, as I told you several times before, was the first whole Jung piece that I read through when I was, and I read this when I was, first time when I was about 18 or 19, approximately. And it really it affected me. It hit me. I got it. Here's Jung's chapter 5, The Undiscovered Self, the philosophical and psychological approach to life. Our ideas have, however, the unfortunate but inevitable tendency to lag behind the changes in the total situation. They can hardly do otherwise because so long as nothing changes in the world, they remain more or less adapted, the ideas. They remain more or less adapted and therefore function in a satisfactory way. There is then no cogent reason why they should be changed and adapted anew. It is only when conditions have altered so drastically that there is an unendurable rift between the outer situation and our ideas, now become antiquated, that the general problem of our Weltanschauung, or philosophy of life, arises, with it the question of how the primordial images that maintain the flow of instinctive energy are to be reoriented or readapted. They cannot simply be replaced by a new rational configuration, for this would be molded too much by the outer situation and not enough by man's biological needs. Moreover, not only would it build no bridge to the original man, but it would block the approach to him altogether. This is in keeping with the aims of Marxist education, which seeks, like God himself, to mold man but in the image of the state. Today our basic convictions have become increasingly rationalistic. Our philosophy is no longer a way of life, as it was in antiquity. It has turned into an exclusively intellectual and academic affair. Our denominational religions, with their archaic rites and conceptions, justified enough in themselves, express a view of the world which caused no great difficulties in the Middle Ages, but has become strange and unintelligible to the man of today. Despite this conflict with the modern scientific outlook, a deep instinct bids him hang on to ideas which, if taken literally, leave out of account all the mental developments of the last 500 years. The obvious purpose of this is to prevent him from falling into the abyss of nihilistic despair. But even when, as rationalists, we feel impelled to criticize contemporary religion as literalistic, narrow-minded, and obsolescent, we should never forget that the creeds proclaim a doctrine whose symbols, although their interpretation may be disputed, nevertheless possess a life of their own on account of their archetypal character. Consequently, intellectual understanding is by no means indispensable in all cases, but is called for only when evaluation through feeling and intuition does not suffice. That is to say, with people for whom the intellect holds the prime power of conviction. Nothing is more characteristic and symptomatic in this respect than the gulf that has opened out between faith and knowledge. The contrast has become so enormous that one is obliged to speak of the incommensurability of these two categories in their way of looking at the world, and yet they are concerned with the same empirical world in which we live. For even theology tells us that faith is supported by facts that became historically perceptible in the known world of ours, namely that Christ was born as a real human being, worked many miracles and suffered his fate, died under Pontius Pilate, and rose up in the flesh after his death. Theology rejects any tendency to take the statements of its earliest records as written myths, and accordingly to understand them symbolically. Indeed, it is the theologians themselves who have recently made the attempt, no doubt as a concession to knowledge, to demythologize the object of their faith while drawing the line quite arbitrarily at the crucial points. But to the critical intellect, it is only too obvious that myth is an integral component of all religions, and therefore cannot be excluded from the assertions of faith without injuring them. The rupture between faith and knowledge is a symptom of the split consciousness, which is so characteristic of the mental disorder of our day. It is as if two different persons were making statements about the same thing, each from his own point of view, or as if one person in two different frames of mind were sketching a picture of his experience. If for person we substitute modern society, it is evident that the latter is suffering from a mental dissociation, i.e. a neurotic disturbance. In view of this, it does not help matters at all if one party pulls obstinately to the right and the other to the left. That is what happens in every neurotic psyche, to its own deep distress, and it is just this distress that brings the patient to the doctor. As I stated above in all brevity, while not neglecting to mention certain practical details whose omission might have perplexed the reader, the doctor has to establish a relationship with both halves of the patient's personality, because only from them both, and not merely from one half with the suppression of the other, can he put together a whole and complete man. The latter alternative is what the patient has been doing all along, for the modern Weltanschauung gives him no other guidance. His individual situation is the same in principle as the collective situation. He is a social microcosm, reflecting on the smallest scale the quantities of society at large, or conversely, as the smallest social unit, cumulatively producing the collective dissociation. The latter possibility is the more likely one, as the only direct and concrete carrier of life is the individual personality, while society and the state are conventional ideas and can claim reality only insofar as they are represented by a certain number of individuals. Far too little attention has been paid to the fact that our age, for all its irreligiousness, is hereditarily burdened with the specific achievement of the Christian epoch, which is the supremacy of the Word, of the Logos, which stands for the central figure of our Christian faith. The Word has literally become our God, and so it has remained, even if we know of Christianity only from hearsay. Words like society and state are so concretized that they are almost personified. In the opinion of the man in the street, the state, far more than any king in history, is the inexhaustible giver of all good. The state is invoked, made responsible, grumbled at, and so on and so forth. Society is elevated to the rank of a supreme ethical principle. Indeed, it is credited with positively creative capacities. No one seems to notice that the veneration of the Word, which was necessary for a certain phase of historical development, has a perilous shadow side. That is to say, the moment the Word, as a result of centuries of education, attains universal validity, it severs its original link with the divine person. There is then a personified church, a personified state. Belief in the Word becomes credulity, and the Word itself an infernal slogan capable of any deception. With credulity come propaganda and advertising to dupe the citizen with the political jobbery and compromises, and the lie reaches proportions never known before in the history of the world. Thus the Word, originally announcing the unity of all men, and their union in the figure of the one great man, has in our day become the source of suspicion and distrust of all against all. Credulity is one of our worst enemies, but that is the makeshift the neurotic always resorts to in order to quell the doubter in his own breast or conjure him out of existence. People think you have only to tell a person that he ought to do something in order to put him on the right track, but whether he can or will do it is another matter. The psychologist has come to see that nothing is achieved by telling, persuading, admonishing, giving good advice. He must also get acquainted with the details and have an authentic knowledge of the psyche, the psychic inventory of his patient. He has therefore to relate to the individuality of the sufferer and feel his way unto all the nooks and crannies of his mind to a degree that far exceeds the capacity of a teacher or even of a director de conscience. His scientific objectivity, which excludes nothing, enables him to see his patient not only as a human being, but also as a subhuman who is bound to his body like an animal. The development of science has directed his interest beyond the range of the conscious personality to the world of unconscious instinct, dominated by sexuality and the power drive, or self-assertion, corresponding to the twin moral concepts of St. Augustine. I'm not going to try to pronounce those right now. The clash between these two fundamental instincts, preservation of the species and self-preservation, is the source of numerous conflicts. They are therefore the chief object of moral judgment, whose purpose is to prevent these instinctual collusions as far as possible. As I explained above, instinct has two main aspects. On the one hand, that of dynamism, drive or drift, and on the other, specific meaning and intention. It is highly probable that all man's psychic functions have an instinctual foundation, as is obviously the case with animals. It is easy to see that in animals instinct functions as the spiritus reactor of all their behavior. This observation lacks certainty only when the learning capacity begins to develop, for instance in the higher apes and in man. In the animals, as a result of their learning capacity, instinct undergoes numerous modifications and differentiations. In civilized man, the instincts are so split up that only a few of the basic ones can be recognized with any certainty in their original form. The most important are the two fundamental instincts and their derivatives, and these have been the exclusive concern of medical psychology so far. Investigators found, however, that in following up the ramifications of the instincts, they hit upon configurations which could not with certainty be ascribed to either group. To take but one example, the observer of the power instinct was in some doubt as to whether an apparently indubitable expression of the sexual instinct might not be better explained as a power arrangement, and Freud himself felt obliged to acknowledge the existence of ego instincts. In addition to the overriding sex instinct, a clear concession to the Adlerian standpoint. In view of this uncertainty, it is hardly surprising that in most cases neurotic symptoms can be explained almost without contradiction in terms of either theory. This perplexity does not mean that one or the other standpoint or both of them is erroneous. Rather, they are both relatively valid and, unlike certain one-sided and dogmatic preferences, allow the existence and competition of other instincts. Although, as I have said, the question of human instinct is a far from simple matter, we shall probably not be wrong in assuming that the learning capacity, a quality almost exclusive to man, is based on the instinct for imitation found in animals. It is in the nature of this instinct to disturb other instinctive activities and eventually to modify them, as can be observed, for instance, in the songs of birds, when they adopt other melodies. Nothing estranges man more from the ground plan of his instincts than his learning capacity, which turns out to be a genuine drive towards progressive transformation of human modes of behavior. More than anything else, is responsible for the altered conditions of our existence and the need for new adaptations which civilization brings. It is also the source of numerous psychic disturbances and difficulties occasioned by man's progressive alienation from his instinctual foundation, i.e. by his uprootedness and identification with his conscious knowledge of himself, by his concern with consciousness at the expense of the unconscious. The result is that modern man can know himself only so far as he can become conscious of himself, a capacity largely dependent